I understand Father Rocky's with us. Is that right, Cyrus? Father Rocky, are you there?
He is. How are you?
I recognize that voice. Welcome, Father Rocky. Thanks. To what do we owe the honor?
Desk in my house with my earphones on, listening attentively to the Patrick Madrid show. I got my website up, and there's your smiling face with your mustache. There's the Patrick Madrid show. Remember the time? Oh, what was the event? But Mike Kendall got a picture of you in second grade and put a mustache on it.
I remember that, yeah.
Like you were born with that mustache. Hey,
it wasn't too full then.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. So, yeah, I was on Drew's show yesterday afternoon at 4 p.m. Originally, the idea was to trumpet the news that we had just broken through the 300 million memorare threshold. Awesome. We've been praying the memorare on air every hour since January of 2018. And we assume that when it's on air that everybody is listening prays it with us. So that's one of the assumptions. We do know how many people are listening at any one point in time. So we just tabulate it up. And, you know, I'm borrowing something I've learned from the saints, Saint Mother Teresa, Saint Teresa of Avila, Saint Josemaria, about the powerful intercession of the Blessed Mother and the power of that prayer, the memorare. And your caller was just saying, you know, it's important for us to understand we can't fix this ourselves. It's not just a question of politics or education or legislation or whatever it is. We need God's help to change our heart in our country if we're going to be open to life, right? And the battle goes all the way back to the 3rd chapter of the book of Genesis, right? And it's revealed in the book of Revelation, you know, the tension between life and death, between darkness and between light. And I mentioned yesterday on Drew's show that what Mother Teresa said while she was alive is somewhat of a prophecy, especially as it relates to the violence in our country. She said, as long as a parent can deprive their unborn child of life, what's to keep us from killing each other, right?
Right.
And we're not going to have peace in our heart, peace in our world, until we overcome, you know, this thing of legal abortion, which is a symptom of something much deeper that rarely is talked about, and that is coming to grips with fear. You know, my analysis of the political discussion in our country is, and this is maybe an oversimplification, but let's call it a two-sided discussion. Mm-hmm. Both sides are driven by fear of different things, but fear, whatever it is. But
fear of losing power.
So, fear of losing power, fear there won't be enough to eat, fear that there won't be enough food to eat, fear that there won't be enough jobs for everyone, fear that these people move into my neighborhood, right, NIMBY, not my neighborhood, not my backyard, fear that we're going to run out of air, that we're going to run out of resources, that the planet is going to explode with flooding, you know, fear. Now, Jesus tells us not to be afraid, but he doesn't tell us to be imprudent. You know, we have to be wise, use our intelligence, try to understand things. But somehow if we can raise the conversation above fear, that passion of fear, then you can have a more reasonable conversation. I would say in these days, it's really important for all of us to be prudent and temperate in our speech. People very easily judge others and condemn others. You know, those IST words, you know, you're a fascist, or you're a racist, or you're a communist, or you are a terrorist. That immediately gets people angry and defensive and retaliatory. You know, if we can just moderate the language we use, that will
the verbal
help a whole lot, right? And go back to what we have on our dollar bill. It's in God we trust. Yeah, that's God we trust. So we all have to say no to the reaction of violence. You know, in social media, I want to encourage everyone to be moderate in their language, because you might feel like you're satisfying yourself by putting expletives out there, but it actually causes more damage to you and to others. You know, and violence breeds violence. You know, am I surprised what happened yesterday after what I've seen happen in this country all summer long? I'm not surprised. Is it terrible? It's terrible. But am I surprised? I'm not surprised. And that's why in the church we condemn violence and we condemn war. And at the same time, you know, I know a lot of people are a little bit anxious out there. Let's remember that Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, the most wonderful family that ever lived in circumstances which are even more harrowing. Herod was the head of the state, and he was the head of the temple, and he was a maniac, right? A very dangerous maniac, as he ordered all of the boys in Bethlehem and surrounding areas under the age of 2 years old, to be killed. Shocking, right? So very dangerous time that they lived in. And yet Joseph and Mary knew that, it's not their job to knock Herod off his throne. Their job is to take care of each other, right? And it doesn't mean that we've got to be like micro-isolationists in our countries and say, okay, it's just my family that counts. I'm not going to care about anything else. But let's make sure we put our family in first place in terms of the order of our concerns. And let's see, okay, what positive thing can I do today to create peace? In public, can I be thoughtful? Can I be polite? Can I say please? Can I say thank you? Can I say at the checkout counter, please, you go first? That goes a long way. Just a simple phrase like that in public, please, you go first. And you might that person may be 180 degrees diametrically opposed to you in terms of political passion or that, but you don't know that, and he or she doesn't know that, but you've just created a friend there. You've created an opening. Please, you go first, or no, thank you, or
it's courtesy.
It's courtesy. And courtesy is so vitally important in civic behavior because it brings out the best in people. Brings out the best. Thank you very much. I hope you have a great day. You say to the person at the checkout counter after you get your donuts at Dunkin' Donuts. That's not a commercial. That's just
I know where you get your donuts.
Self-revelation, right? But those little things make a big, big difference. And, the 2 greatest saints who ever lived in the history of the world, they were not martyrs, all right? Mary and Joseph were not martyrs. Jesus was a martyr, right? But Mary and Joseph weren't, and they were the greatest saints. So we need God's help, and we need to pray for that grace and humility to be able to forgive people, and realize it's not the government, the federal government, or the state government that's going to make you happy. It's going to be God and your choices, right?
So all the people who are listening right now, who, like the rest of us, were watching TV yesterday and just in disbelief watching what happened in the Capitol, what's your advice as a priest, as a fellow Catholic, as a person of goodwill? What's your advice to people who are saying, where do we go from here?
Well, it all depends on what your position is and what your situation is. The first step is always to pray. Right? Pray for peace and unity. Pray for moderation. And, there are many different theories about the whole thing. I think there's a common expectation in our country that if you are a citizen of the United States and you're old enough to vote, that you should feel enfranchised, that every single person gets one vote.
Yeah.
I've come to the realization that the notion of enfranchisement is an anomaly in human history, right? It certainly wasn't that case in Rome or Greece.
Virtually nobody ever had this that we
That's
had.
right. Virtually nobody ever had it, right? And we tend to think of the United States of America as the 50 states within their own border. But the fact is, and I'm not really speaking as a priest here, but sort of a commentator on history. The fact is, at this point in history, the United States consumer is the engine that drives the economy of the world. Mm-hmm. And everybody wants to be a part of that. They want a piece of it. Mm-hmm. China wants a piece of it. Japan wants a piece of it. South and North Korea want a piece of it. India wants a piece of it. Europe wants a piece of it. When I lived in Rome for 4 years, I was amazed at how focused on American news and events the Europeans were.
That's
Whether
true.
they're from France, England, Italy, or Spain. I said, my goodness, you guys know more about what's going on in my country than I do and than I care to know about. But there's just the whole world is focused on what goes on in the United States. They want to be a part of it. So the stakes are very high. And this is kind of a long-winded way to say that there are many other realities that feel enfranchised in the political process, not just the individual human citizen in America, but big industries have a lot at stake, right? Mm-hmm. And big investors have a lot at stake. And elite institutions of education and media have a lot at stake. Foreign powers have a lot at stake. And the world is connected through the internet.
It would seem that the people who have all those stakeholders, so to speak, want something different. They want a different kind of United States. They want
more of the piece of the pie.
Yeah, but to get it, they have to fundamentally change this country.
That's right.
Because we're
I
seeing
think
it
so.
dismantled before our very eyes.
Right. And so, well, I think we're more resilient than that. I don't know how long it is. I mean, we know that countries never live forever, right? Countries, they rise and they fall, right? So the 16th century was the century of Spain, right? The 17th and middle 18th century was the century of France, right? The 18th and up until the early part of the 20th century was the century of Great Britain. And since World War II, the dominant superpower of the world has been the United States. That's 70, 75 years ago, right? And how long does that obtain? We hope and pray that it continues, that this is a great experiment, that it's great, last greatest hope. But we have a terrible sin in our country, and it's abortion. And I don't know if it's reasonable to expect that a country that has allowed for the killing of 70 million unborn innocent children should expect to remain a superpower, all right? Because the very foundation is being eroded. I don't know how much time we have. I've often thought the United States had built up a tremendous amount of goodwill with God because of our intervention in World War I, our sacrifices for World War II, defeating powers of tyranny and such. But we've got this stain on the national soul, and that's why the bishops, with great courage and tenacity, say this is the preeminent priority.
Yeah.
And I always kind of connect the dots of the unrest and the violence in our country to the violence we do to the child in the womb. And only God knows, and so we put our trust in God.
We've been trained to use violence to get what we want.
I think so.
And we're seeing people do that now.
Yep.
In other ways.
So I always have hope because I know God intervenes in history, and with our Blessed Mother, everything can change for the better in an instant. That was the case in Russia after the Berlin Wall fell, after John Paul II consecrated Russia to her Immaculate Heart. And that was the case in Mexico in 1531 when the Blessed Mother appeared to Juan Diego at Guadalupe.
Yep. Yes. Well, Father Rocky,
I wrote a book
if you ran
about
for president, I would vote for you.
Oh, I wouldn't run for president. God bless you, Patrick.
Thanks, Father Rocky. God
Thank
bless you, too. All right, we'll be right back with more of the Patrick Madrid Show right after this.
For more of the Patrick Madrid Show, visit relevantradio.com/Patrick.